This is the SPECT-CT machine, one of the most advanced equipment, medical equipment used in the treatment of cancer. And this machine exists only here in the Cameroon Oncology Center in Douala, in the whole of the Republic of the Cameroon. And this is because of the high cost, the very high cost of obtaining this machine, purchasing this machine, establishing it, and running it for the treatment of cancer patients. And now we're looking at how we're looking at the improvement of cancer treatment in the Republic of Cameroon. And we're having this conversation with the founder and chief executive officer of Cameroon Oncology Center, Professor Paul MOBIT, who is analyzing the situation as far as cancer treatment is concerned. And I should tell you that Cameroon is lagging behind many African countries. And of course, many sub-Saharan African countries are still lagging behind in terms of cancer treatment. They're still using technology of so many decades back. And this is not good for cancer treatment. This is not good for quality cancer treatment. And definitely, there is the need to step up in terms of technological advancement in the treatment of cancer. And this is what we're looking at. How can this be achieved in Cameroon, in other parts of sub-Saharan Africa? And we're discussing this with Professor Paul MOBIT. Meet our guest in some few seconds. Professor Paul MOBIT, thank you for accepting to be our guest in this edition of the program.
Thank you, and welcome to Cameroon Oncology Center, Mr. Bagler.
You're the founder and chief executive officer of the Cameroon Oncology Center, where we are now, and we are talking about how to advance healthcare in Cameroon generally. And we're going to be focusing specifically on cancer care.
Cancer care is something that's very close to my heart. We have been in the business of cancer care right here at Cameroon Oncology Center since 2019. Why this is close to my heart is not because I've lost somebody to cancer, but because there are so many challenges in Cameroon and in a resource-limited setting like Cameroon. So when you look at a resource-limited setting, that's all of sub-Saharan Africa, where the challenges are enormous. And so the question is always, how can we bring high-quality cancer care to a resource-limited setting like Cameroon? And so there are various things that we can do.
And that was the focus of the gala that you organized recently, bringing together experts and stakeholders as far as healthcare generally is concerned, and even more particularly cancer care here in Douala.
Absolutely. We had our gala, and at the gala we had the Director General of Customs who talked about the importance or the role that the Customs Service play in cancer care, which is very important. Most people don't think that the Customs Service play a critical role, but they do play a critical role, and he was a keynote speaker at our gala. We also heard from...
And he was talking about how medical equipment imported into the country, the role that the Customs Administration plays in ensuring that the medical equipment come in and then get to the health centers, and of course drugs and all of that.
Yes, I mean, he really emphasized about how the Customs Service help. I mean, truly, there's also a government law that, the finance law, which indicates that the medical equipment are tax-free or custom-free, duty-free, so the Customs Service help in that. There's also even the chemotherapy drugs that comes for cancer care, to make sure that these drugs are proper drugs. They are not illegitimate drugs that somebody is making in the backyard of their compound and sending to Cameroon for cancer treatment. They make sure they liaise with other customs service and manufacturers around the world. So they play a critical role.
In the course of this program, we're going to bring to our viewers the keynote address of the Director of Customs during the gala, in which he elaborates on the role of the Custom Administration in ensuring healthcare, in ensuring quality healthcare for Cameroonians. Now, let's proceed. You were looking, during that gala, you were looking at how to improve healthcare, generally speaking, and then more specifically, cancer care.
Yes, I think when we look at healthcare, as I say, you have limited resources. When I look at the health budget of Cameroon, it's very, very small. So is the healthcare budget for maybe Ghana, maybe Nigeria, Kenya. These are very small health budgets, even though they look enormous. But for the task at hand, they are very, very limited. The question to me is always, how do we use the limited resources that we have to provide high-quality healthcare, especially cancer care, to a majority of our population? What can we do as a nation in Cameroon here to improve the quality and enhance the treatment of cancer across the board, whether it's in Douala or in Yaoundé or in the Northwest region or in the Far North region? How can quality care be delivered to Cameroonians? Cameroonians deserve quality cancer care. How can we do that? And so, based on the knowledge that we have right here at Cameroon Oncology Center, based on the knowledge that we have working with other cancer centers around the world, both in Africa and outside of Africa, we think that we have some solutions.
Right, we'll come to that solution in a short while, because that is the focus of this program.
Yes.
We want to really highlight how Cameroonians who are afflicted by cancer can be properly taken care of. During that meeting that we organized, apart from the Director of Customs, there were other stakeholders who were involved. There were even health professionals who were there, and a lot of things were said. You also made a presentation, which we're going to come to that later. But why did you bring together all those people?
I think for me, personally, I'm a professor. I teach, I do research. And so in every field, it comes to a point where once you'll be doing something, you have to step back and do an evaluation. What are we going wrong? How can we improve the service? How can we, in this case, provide quality care to Cameroonians at a cost that a majority of them can afford? How do we lobby the government to provide more resources for cancer care? Because that's my interest, is cancer care. How do we lobby non-governmental organizations to support cancer care in Cameroon? And what things can we do as Cameroon Oncology Center or the other players in the health sector, the Bingo, the Acha Tugi hospitals, all the other hospitals that provide cancer care, including the public hospital? How can we, as part of the same ecosystem, what do we do individually and as a group provide cancer care that is of high quality yet reasonably priced for everybody to advance?
So, you medical experts will tell us that you cannot treat a disease without passing through diagnosis. You must diagnose first and then administer treatment. Prescribe and then administer treatment. So let us diagnose this problem of cancer care in Cameroon, which is still quite behind, far behind, so to speak, many other African countries like those that you cited, Nigeria, Kenya, and even Ghana. How bad is the situation?
Well, I think for me, I think that Cameroon was way ahead in the early 90s. In the early 90s, coming up to 2000, Cameroon was ahead of, let's say, Ghana, probably even Ivory Coast. If you look at l'Hôpital General, Yaoundé, and Douala, I mean, when I came there for a visit, I was shocked with what I saw because it was high quality, high standard. But then we let things slip. So there was no, in terms of innovations, in terms of bringing in new technology, bringing in training, all of these things that you need to continue to provide cancer care. It seemed that they were not happening. So today, these major institutions that were world-class in 2000, in the early 2000s, late 1990s, are now falling behind, are now behind. So other countries have surpassed us. I look at, for instance, in my presentation, I look at several indexes where I compare Kenya, Nigeria, Ivory Coast, and Ghana. And you see that Cameroon was at the bottom of each of these indexes. In fact, even if you include a country like Uganda, is ahead of Cameroon, and sometimes ahead by a while. So first, we have, as you were talking about the issues, first we must diagnose what is the issue. Then we look at what are the solutions. So we have an idea of what the issues are. So the issues are, you have less investment going into cancer care in general. Training, partnerships, and again, the cost of healthcare is rising around the world as well, not just in Cameroon, but in the United States, in the United Kingdom. The cost of healthcare rises significantly much more than the inflation in those developed countries. So cancer is one of them. The cancer is also a field that to diagnose and treat well, you need modern technology, modern equipment. These equipments are extremely expensive. Again, I said the question for me is, how do we bring this technology into Cameroon at a price that the majority of Cameroonians can afford? Or how do we make it, not a majority, a good number of our population can benefit from it?
And this is not just an issue of Cameroon.
When you talk about radiation therapy, for instance, which is, I would say, the specialty here at Cameroon Oncology Center, radiation therapy is not available at the basic level in 24 countries in sub-Saharan Africa, which means that if you need radiation therapy in Chad, there's no radiation therapy in Chad. I mean, all the countries surrounding Cameroon, except Nigeria, and Gabon used to have some, but I'm not quite sure about the state in Gabon. But all of these countries, you can see that if you need radiation therapy in this country, man, you are done because they don't have the equipment. So if they don't have the equipment, they don't have the manpower. So when you count all of these countries plus 20 more countries in other parts of sub-Saharan Africa, that's where, so they don't have equipment. For those that have equipment, they are using equipment that is based on, I would say probably another 60% of them. We use equipment that is based on 1970 technology. Right? Can you imagine we're in 2026? Then you are using technology that's based on 1970 or 1980. So most of these other countries are behind. They are behind the curve, including Cameroon. So the question is, how do we move the needle a bit so that Cameroonians can benefit from the technology that's happening around the world in the health sector?
We begin with the median. Deceptive budget, chronic dependence on debt. Cameroon is sinking into a financial crisis. The paper reports that according to the journal Financial Afrique, the 2026 finance law promulgated on 17 December 2025 only confirms the alarm it sounded earlier about a critical financial situation in Cameroon.
It observes that more than 35% of the resources required to run the government in 2026 will come from new loans. In other words, Cameroon borrows more than a third of its annual budget, a situation which will not be sustainable in the medium term. The country's 8.8 trillion francs CFA state budget is decoded by journalists of the Cameroon English-speaking Journalists Association Douala chapter, edified by financial expert Louis-Marie Cagde, who demystified intricacies of Cameroon's 2026 finance law in a seminar, as reported by the Herald Tribune. The Voice at New Year Wishes presentation ceremony, Professor Fu Callistus charts Cameroon's 241 trillion francs CFA mining future, declares zero tolerance policy for fraud and informal extraction in the gold sector, announces massive job creation and restructuring. The paper also informs its readers that the 2026 International Mining and Exhibition Conference will bring together over 100 countries in Cameroon's political capital Yaoundé. In the Guardian post, the Electricity Development Corporation (EDC) recommits to further develop the country's energy infrastructure with a 69 billion francs CFA budget to translate President Paul Biya's energy vision to reality. Municipal Updates reports that as customs performance soars, government salutes the exemplary leadership of the Customs Director General, Edwin Fangot Nuvaga, who is described as a result-oriented Customs Director General. According to The Advocate, the Turkish ambassador marvels at the Limbe deep-sea port's potentials. Another issue of the Guardian Post pays tribute to the Voice publisher, Wirkwa Eric. The publisher of the Guardian Post, Christian, qualifies the deceased as the man who saved him from being killed in Combo.
We're looking at how cancer treatment can be improved generally in the Republic of Cameroon and beyond, and in other parts of the African continent. This is the focus of this edition of The Insight. What are the consequences of lagging behind in terms of cancer care in these countries that you mentioned, including, of course, Cameroon? What are the consequences on the death toll, for example?
Well, the death toll is significant. In fact, the data that I presented, for certain categories of cancer, right, more than 70% of those who are diagnosed with the cancer die. I mean, just simply die because sometimes not even diagnosed. Some of them are diagnosed, but they die. Right? So you see the number of diagnosed versus the number diagnosed and the death, they're almost equal.
Because of inadequate care.
Well, inadequate care, I mean, various other things. And because, again, one of the issues, especially with cancer care, is that cancer care, first to diagnose, is expensive. Then you need combination therapy. So you might need radiation, chemotherapy, surgery, or some combination of that. And so each of them is expensive. So you look at chemotherapy drugs, and the modern drugs that they use for cancer treatment, targeted, hormonal, are expensive. I mean, these items, some of them cost over $1 million per session, and somebody might need 6 or 7 sessions. So you see, it's expensive. An average Cameroonian or average African cannot afford that.
And right behind you is SPECT-CT, single photon emission computer tomography, and this is one of the most advanced equipment, machines in terms of cancer care. Tell us about this machine.
Yes, we talk about diagnosis. So when cancer is diagnosed, it's important for us to say, where is this cancer? Is the cancer localized or not? So if the cancer is localized, then the treatment regime is different. If the cancer has left the origin, let's say, for instance, you have prostate cancer, we have breast cancer, it has left the breast and invade other organs, then it's important to know that. So nuclear medicine, as a subspecialty, deals with, generally, with assisting the oncologist to determine whether the cancer is localized or the cancer has spread, so that the protocol that's developed to treat that cancer is specific for that patient, for the diagnosis and for the stage. So that's why it's important. So this nuclear medicine, the SPECT-CT, is one of those machines. So in terms of cancer staging and cancer diagnosis, this machine is critical. So is the PET-CT, but I will talk about what we have behind, which is the SPECT-CT. So this SPECT-CT, so SPECT is single photon emission tomography. Again, these are big terms, we don't know, we don't need to worry about them. But what is important is that that cancer cells are hungry cells, so they're dividing. So when you inject somebody with a radioisotope, then this radioisotope will go to some targeted organs. And then this nuclear medicine, so the first part, as you can see, I don't know what I can tell, but yeah, so the first part of this machine is called the SPECT, which is this section from here to here. Then the other section is the CT. So the SPECT help us is kind of a physiology. You look at the physiology, the activity. So if there are cancer cells that are dividing and they are absorbing the radioisotopes, then you can easily see that, for instance, when the cancer has spread to the bones or to the lymph nodes, it's easily seen on these. Because sometimes when the cancer is not has not grown to a particular size, you cannot see it. So the CT, which is fused to this, is for anatomy. So, but these deals, you can see cancer cells that are grouped together that are much bigger in size. So with this CT, we can determine, when we scan the patient, we can determine whether the cancer is localized or it has spread to other organs. So we fuse the two set of images. One is physiology, one is anatomy, and we can determine where the cancer has gone to. We can actually look at that. So it's very, very good for diagnosis. There are other things that you can use the SPECT-CT for. But this is a second level. So we have what I would call an excellent mode, which is not a SPECT, but a PET-CT. We've also constructed the building to do that, but it will not come in probably till April.
So this SPECT-CT machine is the only machine.
Yes, this particular machine is the only machine in Cameroon.
In Cameroon.
Yes.
This particular one, there is none elsewhere.
Yes. And it was just installed in October. So it's actually this 2026, starting from the 15th of January, that we're going to start exploiting it.
Tell us about the financial cost.
The financial cost of this machine is a refurbished system. A brand new system of this costs over $850,000. So when you translate that to CFA, you are talking somewhere in the region of 400 to 500 million CFA to buy. But this one is a refurbished system. I will not go into the specifics of pricing. So these machines are very, very expensive to buy, to install as well. It's a cost. Just this building that we have here is expensive. You can see the walls are not the regular wall. There's radiation, so you have to shield the radiation from going outside. You can see that's a lead glass. That's about, when you look through it, you see a lead glass. That's so that when the workers are working, they do not get the radiation, because this machine will produce radiation even when, if you have a patient here that's been injected with radioactivity, that patient will be radioactive. So there's radiation, so you need to shield the workers. The next issue is that in order to operate nuclear medicine, you need to have a lab. You have to have a special lab that is equipped to measure the radiation. So that lab is actually directly behind us. So you have to think about the machine, you have to think about training, you have to think about the lab. It is very costly to buy. It's very costly to operate. In order to operate this machine, we need to import radioactivity from Egypt. It's called a technetium 99. So we need to import that every 2 weeks in order to operate the machine. It costs us about 2.5 million every time we import it. And we can use that for about 30 patients. So you can imagine every month just to operate this machine, I'm not talking about the capital cost, I'm just talking about operating this machine is costing about 5 million, which in some countries is minimal. But for Cameroon, it's high. That means that this cost has to be translated to the patient. So each scan is expensive for that very reason, that it costs us money just to buy the activity that we need to run the machine. The PET-CT, which we are going to install, is a different ballgame because to produce the radioisotope that you need to run a PET-CT, you need a cyclotron that costs somewhere in the region of $3 to $5 million. Again, you can convert that into you're talking milliard. Then it costs at least another $500,000 to operate that machine per year. So you can see that's why when we talk about cancer care in Africa, these are minimal costs for Europe and North America and some of the Asian countries, Asian economy. But for Cameroon and most of the countries in Africa, this is a significant cost.
What's the advantage in having this machine as far as quality cancer care is concerned?
Is very, very important, really important, because we want to know, in order to have the right protocol to treat cancer, we need to know whether the cancer is localized or it has spread to different organs, depending on the different cancer. So if we don't know whether the cancer has spread to different organs, what we do, we will just guess and use a protocol that might not be appropriate. Then 2-3 months down the road, you see the cancer has already spread to the point where you can see it. Because this machine is able to detect very, very small cancers for some categories. The PET machine that I'm talking about will detect for a majority of cancer that have spread, those small that you cannot easily see on the CT scan. So you can see when you don't have this machine or the PET CT, what you do is you are just guessing. Right. And so you pick up the wrong protocol if you guess wrong.
So in terms of precision
is very
valuable.
Precision specific. There are other things, but precision is what this machine gives you. And also, this machine with the new technology that is happening now in North America and around the world, in the developed economies, that we can also, even when you, for instance, you can treat prostate cancer and then it spread beyond prostate. You can also use nuclear medicine to also treat. Nuclear medicine generally works for diagnostic purposes. But now, there are certain radioisotopes that you can use. They go and concentrate somewhere. You know, this is where the cancer cell is. Then you send a different radioisotope and target that area only. So people are living now longer in this development where they have all of this technology combined. And it's something that we can do here in Cameroon, and we hope that after about 6 months of operation, we'll be able to offer some very advanced cancer care, especially for prostate cancer patients, that will already offer if we go, let's say, to the US or some of the advanced economy. So this machine will help us to do that, to target those cancer cells that are small, somewhere farther from the initial site, that will not be able to do, that we cannot do, that the CT scanner cannot do. The CT scanner cannot see.
So this machine is mainly for diagnosis.
This machine is mainly for diagnosis.
The CT scan, diagnosis, and treatment.
No, the CT scan is also diagnosis as well. But the CT scan, in terms of cancer, the CT scan will see cancer that's bigger. So if the cancer is not too big, you will not be able to see it on CT scan. The special component of the CT will see smaller cells. So imagine if the cancer was growing and it has attacked a secondary organ and it's still starting. With the CT
scan will not detect that.
Would have not that. But this one, because it has a CT and it has this, you will be able to determine that with this one. Probably for certain cancers, you'll be able, especially cancer that have gone to the bone, this one will be very effective. For example, breast cancer, even prostate cancer that has gone to the bone, right? But the PET CT, which is for soft tissue, you can detect for in fact for a range of cancer, including bone. So that's why we need in Cameroon, in order to really make significant impact, we need to go to the next one, which is PET CT.
Right, the PET CT, which you are still working on.
Yeah, which we are still working on. But as I indicated to you, even if we work, our program now is installing, and we use something called gallium for doing PET CT. But then this is not adequate for most cancer. So we need, in order to produce the radioisotope that we need for other types of cancer, we need a cyclotron. The cyclotron, as indicated before, costs somewhere between $3 to $5 million. So you can see we are talking millions of dollars, not millions of CFA. So when I start to call millions of dollars, it means you are talking millions of
billions of francs.
Yes, and then just how does that translate to the cost that the patient is going to pay, right? So that's why I say we need some innovation to reduce the cost to patients and make it available to many more patients.
You're asking to find out what the Customs Administration is doing to facilitate in this domain. You know, when you receive medication in a hospital, you don't know exactly what has been happening in the background. And the Customs Administration is always at the background to make sure that medication gets to patients, medication gets to hospitals on time. And of course, not only on time, but safe. You know, most of what we have as medication in this country is imported. And when medication has to come in, the medication has to be kept under very particular conditions. You know, you don't just bring in medication anyhow. And so we make sure that all of that is respected. All the protocols are respected. But beyond medication, the government of Cameroon has come forth with many incentives for the local production of medication within the import substitution policy. And so there are lots of units now, lots of companies that are setting up to produce generic medication. And what does government do? Government actually exonerates not only inputs, but of course the equipment that's coming in for the production of this medication. And so what we try to let people know is that these facilities are there. You don't need to pay any customs duty when you plan to produce locally, not only medication, but many other goods that we need. So all we need people to know is to find out what obtains, and of course, come to us if they need advice. So in a nutshell, the Customs Administration is there to facilitate the entry of medication into Cameroon. The Customs Administration is there to facilitate the production of medication in Cameroon. And of course, the Customs Administration is there to check against falsified illicit medication. You know, we have a lot of illicit medication around that comes from some of our neighbors. And so we're there to fight all of that, because bad medication, illicit medication, leads to death. And so we have a very important role to play. And I'm glad that we are doing our best to play that role successfully. Cancer is a difficult ailment to treat. And what we try to do is work hand in hand with the Minister of Public Health to see how we can facilitate the importation of protocols for cancer treatment, medication for protocols for cancer treatment. And most of this medication comes in duty-free. Even at the level of the construction of treatment centers, at the level of the of the putting in place of theaters All what it takes to do all of that comes in duty-free. And that's the role of government. And that's exactly what we are doing at the level of the Customs Administration. So you can count on the Customs Administration when it comes to health, because we've partnered not only with the Ministry of Public Health, we've partnered with the Syndicate of Pharmacists, we've partnered with lots of other paramedics to make sure that the sector receives goods on time. The sector is protected.
Well, the Customs Administration is doing pretty much in terms of fight against illicit medicine entering the country, because we are having reports every now and then of huge consignments of illicit medicine intercepted by custom officers in different parts of the country, especially in the southwest region, and some of them have been destroyed and all of that. But there's still pretty much of illicit medicine in the country. This fight seems to be quite difficult.
It is a very, very difficult fight, and I want to advise that it should not only be a problem for the Customs Administration. The fight shouldn't be only carried out by the Customs Administration, but every stakeholder has to take part in this. We have been informed that there are certain structures that come to get their medication from such sources, and we will condemn that. So all of us, even you need to fight against the prevalence of illicit medication within our community. And of course, we also count on the powers that be. Like government has reduced the cost of medication, especially generic medication, through the agencies that are there. And of course, we also called on pharmacists and all the other stakeholders to make sure that this medication, the medication they bring, is affordable and of high standards. So the fight is there because there's a demand for fake medication in Cameroon. And so all of us need to fight to make sure that these goods don't enter the country. I'll give you a simple example. It is impossible for us to control all the consignments, to physically examine all the consignments that come in. It's impossible. So we do profiling, we do risk management. At times we might hit the target, at times we might not hit the target. And of course, smugglers are they think faster than us when it comes to illicit trading, cross-border criminality. They're faster. And so we're doing everything to make sure that we will keep track and will prevent the importation of such medication into the country.
That definitely takes us to how to have quality care at a reduced cost to meet the purchasing power of Cameroonians and many Africans. There are still many African countries in Central Africa, especially Sub-Saharan Africa, generally speaking, not yet at the level of radiotherapy.
Yes.
How can we, not to talk about so how can we get there? Well, what are the innovative ways that can take us there?
I think, for me, I think that the solution is never going to be to compete with the Americans, the French, the British, because they have the resources. So in Cameroon and in South Africa, what can we do? The first thing is that we need partnerships. When this machine is here, sometime in Cameroon, physicians, even though they know the patient needs it, they will not refer patients. So they cost. So if I end up this machine, we can scan, let's say 100 patients every month. But yet we are using it for 5 patients or for 10 patients. When we know that many more patients in Cameroon that can afford it and that need it, but then the referral base, the referral physician refuse to send patients here. That's an issue. That's one. So we need to cooperate. The other thing is that we need to create partnerships, which means, okay, I'm telling you that one of the most important equipment that we need in Cameroon, and so in Cameroon in particular, is the PET-CT, and the cyclotron. The cyclotron of $5 million, let's say 3.3 million, with a running cost of about 300 million CFA per year. So we can come together, Cameroon Oncology Center and the other bigger healthcare centers in the city of Douala, and establish a cyclotron, which we cannot go to the government as a consortium, and even international partners. We can have that located somewhere in Douala. Everybody have their PET scan, and then they just go there and get the radioisotope. The running cost will now be shared through all the 5 or 6. Now, many more patients will have access because the cost per unit will be much lower for the running hospital. Because if you go and put this machine in a hospital and it runs on it, you can bankrupt that particular hospital. But if the cost is shared by many hospitals, then the cost per patient is low, and you have more access to that, to the list. The same thing for Yaoundé, as an example. So the hospitals in Yaoundé can come together, create a cyclotron, or build a cyclotron. Then each of the hospitals have their PET scan, or they can have 2 hospitals have PET scan. Then they each send patients there. They take charge in running the cost. So the cost is spread across a number of hospitals. It's spread across a number of patients. Then you have patient access is increased significantly, and the cost per patient is lower. Remember, this machine, this one standing behind me, the SPEC-CT, it's not just for oncology. Cardiologists, they need this machine. Breast surgeons, they need this machine. Nephrologists, kidney disease, they need this machine. The same thing with the PET and many other specialties. So when you do that, you now increase access, not just for cancer patients, but for the other specialties that needs the results of this machine. So you increase access, then what do? Now you are training. Your physicians are more, you know what the PET is, you know the uses. Now you can have more. Now you increase the capacity of the country to diagnose more, and access is increased to the entire population. In Cameroon, we are absolutely not going to be able to treat everybody with cancer. We're going to treat a certain number.
Of course,
unfortunately,
Cameroon Oncology Center cannot, and will not be able to handle.
We cannot. And so some people think that we are here. Cameroon Oncology Center, it doesn't matter how much resources we have. We cannot treat 5%, 3% of the cancer population in Cameroon, even if they have the money. We cannot. I was doing my presentation, I also showed that Cameroon Oncology Center Cameroon, the country of Cameroon needs 35 linear accelerators. We have 1, which is located here. So which means you need 34, and each of these costs around $3 million. You can see, you multiply that. Then you can eat the health budget of the country for cancer care, which doesn't make sense. So you have to be innovative, and the innovative comes with various forms. For instance, I've seen in the US where you have hospitals that are competing. They come together and build a cancer center, right? Hospitals that are competing in other areas, they come together and build a radiation therapy center, and they work on the radiation therapy as a team, right? You have your patient to bring, other patients will come there, and access is there. But in Cameroon, if you were to propose that 2 or 3 hospitals come together and own a radiation, people would think that you are trying to play some games, which is really not.
But that is what should be done.
Right? That's what should. We have limited resources. Even here, if we have this, even in India, you can operate. Cameroon Oncology Center has 1 linear accelerator, but you can operate it in 3 shifts and have 3 different hospitals have a time slot to treat their patient. What do? I just give you an example. A regional hospital located in the main city of Douala can decide that, okay, we are going to take the linear accelerator for 2 hours. We have about 5 patients. we are going to treat on the linear from this to this. They schedule that patient. The patient can still be treated by Cameroon Oncology Center, but they belong to Regional Hospital X that operates in Douala. What do? You start getting capacity built in the other regional hospitals in Douala that don't have radiotherapy. Then very soon they will have the capacity, and then they can then now move to build their own center. The same thing can happen to Yaoundé. So it doesn't mean that, but once you have equipment, if I have equipment here, the linear selector that we know we need 35, and I'm underuse it, instead of treating maybe 50 patients per day, I'm only treating 25. It means that you have a country that is in great need of radiotherapy. Yes, the single radiotherapy unit that they have is being underutilized by 50%. It means that we are not making progress. So that's why you see these partnerships are important for the average Cameroonian. And this partnership will move us forward. Yes, because by just operating 3 shifts, that would be equivalent to having 3 machines. Right?
Right.
Yes. And actually, with the current standard, that might even be equivalent to having 6 machines, because now we are putting to full capacity
the existing one.
The existing one, and then having 3 shifts, which is done in other parts of the world.
So, what about...
So that was the reason for bringing all of these people together and say, how can we talk about, how can we bring the resources that Cameroon as a country has, whether it's private or public, how do we bring those resources together to make cancer care, to make some of the technology that we have and others have widely available. We have sent our staff to Central Pasteur for them to train them, because we want to open a pathology service, and they will graciously train our staff. So we are looking at setting up, and when we set up, we are going to collaborate with some of their staff there to help us build a capacity, to help us run an efficient, accurate, and high quality service based on them. So Central Pasteur have just helped us to launch a program that we otherwise probably would not have launched.
Yes, I was going to ask you about collaboration in terms of training. In terms of training, you have people who are experts who are coming from out of the country to come and train some of your staff here. And you also need collaboration with other health facilities, the major health facilities around. And you've also been offering training to some of the health facilities free.
Yes, we have offered training even to staff from Canadian Hospital located here in Douala. We've offered training to some regional hospitals, not regional hospitals, some Protestant hospitals in the West region. So we have helped them to initiate their own chemotherapy program, right? At no cost to them, because we know they are helping patients in that part of the country. Now those patients that we use to do chemotherapy here no longer come here. They are done locally there. So we have empowered them to take care of Cameroonians located in the West, some part of the West region. So they don't have to travel 150 miles to come to Cameroon Oncology Center.
That should be reciprocal.
That should be, just as I say, we send our staff to Central Pasteur to train. So you have local partnerships where you have local expertise that can be shared with many more without a lot of cost. So we send a staff to be trained somewhere. They are giving us, you have to pay $1 million or you have to pay it. That's exorbitant. I cannot send a staff. I will better sometimes send a staff to Nigeria where the training will be free in another partner hospital. So partnership has to be local. Partnership has to be within Africa as well, and partnership international. So Cameroon Oncology Center has one. We have partnership locally. We have partnered with the University of Yaoundé. We have partnered with other health institutions which I don't want to name. But we have partnered out of Cameroon. We have a partnership with the University of Lagos Teaching Hospital. And they have one of the biggest radiotherapy programs in sub-Saharan Africa, because they got a significant investment in the last 2 years. Okay? So some of our staff are going to be training there. We have a partnership with the University of Nigeria at Enugu Teaching Hospital. We have our staff training there as we speak. Right? So all of these...
And beyond the African continent.
So you need, yes, because they have expertise. If you go now, maybe to, even if you have a partnership with some universities in the United States, sometimes this time I want to get a visa and the visa is refused. Whereas you know Nigeria is not going to refuse a visa to a Cameroon. First of all, Cameroon can travel to Nigeria without a visa, right? They are going to Kenya. We know our partnership. So we are establishing partnership between Cameroon and some institutions in Ghana. That's why we are receiving our training to train for this nuclear medicine. The trainer is from Kenya. It's not coming from Europe. We have partnership in Turkey. In fact, Turkey will develop several partnerships in Turkey. Our engineering, they support our medicine accelerator, they support so many things. So this partnership, so we have to be open in Cameroon for partnership, local, regional, as in regional, I mean in Africa, but also global. And we have to tailor it to our specific needs.
Right, so we are looking at how to have an improvement in the cancer care in Cameroon and beyond Cameroon, why not in other African nations. Now, in terms of partnership, in terms of partnering with the other health institutions, what role can the government play? What role can the health authorities play in facilitating that?
I think that is very critical for the government in Cameroon, the Ministry of Health, to help facilitate this partnership and sharing of information between different health units. I think that's very, very critical. Once a mandate is like the Minister of, you guys should provide, when necessary, free training, right? Yes, I would not expect somebody coming from Yaoundé to train the Cameroon Oncologist Center that I'm going to house them. But what I would do is we'll provide training for free. What you need to do, you pay for your accommodation, you pay for your food, you pay for if there are outstations allowances involved. You pay for that. But the training itself will be free to any Cameroonian institution that wants to train here. So we have, last year, we did training for radiation oncologists, radiation oncology residents from the University of Yaoundé. They are training here. Zero. We didn't charge the University of Yaoundé any fee. This year, we've so far received 6 residents from the University of Yaoundé training in medical oncology. At no fee to the University of Yaoundé. That's an institution. They should be paying off. But we don't receive anything from them. And we don't want anything from them because we know that training Cameroonians. Eventually, we would like to use some of these people that are trained. We ourselves, Cameroon Oncology Center, is also have enrolled residents in the University of Yaoundé residency program. We have enrolled residents at the University of Enugu, at the University of Nigeria at Enugu, to train so that in 4 years, some of our foreign practitioners, medical practitioners that are working at Cameroon Oncology, we want to get rid of them and replace them with Cameroonians. So we have to build the capacity. And it has to be an excellent capacity, high quality training that's been provided, and we use that here in Cameroon. And I think that's the way to go. If we are going to think that each institution has the money and the resources to do all of this on its own, it's not going to be possible. We'll be talking about it 15 years later, we'll be where we are today. It's going to tell me that the government is suddenly going to double the whole budget. It's not realistic. Even if they double the whole budget, it's still very small for what we need. If they come on to double the whole budget and say, okay, all that budget is for cancer, we probably will not even be there.
It will not still be enough.
It will not be enough. So what do we do with what we have to improve access, increase quality, reduce cost to patient? That's what we should be looking at. But once you look at that and see their way, I mean, these are ideas coming from us at Cameroon Oncology Center. But there are other centers, there are other people that have ideas. We bring all of these ideas to the table, discuss them, and adopt them, and make her available to Cameroonians at a reasonable cost. We here at Cameroon Oncology Center, as I indicated before, our radiation therapy costs, when we compare internationally, we are cheaper than some public hospitals in Africa. Yet our quality of treatment is very international.
But from what you're saying, my understanding is that it is actually the job, the health sector generally, including the private and the public, to come together and forge a way forward to improve cancer care in Cameroon.
Absolutely, you are right. It is. I think people think that the government has. The government is who? The government is us. We are Cameroonians, right? The Minister of Health is not the expert in everything. He's looking for Cameroonians in the health sector to propose solutions to him that will work for the benefit of Cameroonians, right? We have proposed a number of things that can be done to improve access, improve quality, reduce cost. Other people have other ideas. Let them bring them to the table. And we discuss and see which ones we can adopt as a nation and make progress for cancer care in Cameroon.
Professor, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the insights you've shared with us today.
Thank you, and thank you for coming, and wish you the best, and thank you, Equinoxe.